Hello everyone, today we are continuing our discussion of Nefertiti for the personality study of Akhenaten from the Year 12 Ancient History Syllabus, though today we are focusing specifically on the issue of the co-regency theory of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. As mentioned previously, today we are specifically discussing the issue of the co-regency. The learning outcomes, according to the New South Wales Ancient History Syllabus, is to evaluate the role of historical features, individuals and groups in shaping the past, and to assess the significance of historical features, people, places, events and developments of the ancient world, as well as to analyse the different perspectives of individuals and groups in the historical time. To begin, what do we mean by co-regency? In the context of ancient Egypt, we are referring to the practice of two Egyptian kings ruling at the same time. Usually there is an overlap of several years between the end of one sole reign and the beginning of the next, which we know from a double dating system. The practice seems to have been used to ensure a stable transition between the two rulers and allow the successor to gain valuable experience. So how does the co-regency tie in with Akhenaten and Nefertiti? The last attested date of Akhenaten is year 17, and it is unclear what happened with the Amarnic succession upon his death. Now, the issue of the co-regency is one that is extremely contentious in Egyptology, and it basically argues that someone co-ruled with Akhenaten, which is the transition. There are many theories of various iterations out there, and to be honest, it can get quite confusing as the same evidence is used in multiple ways by scholars to argue for different theories, and furthermore, scholars constantly change their argument when and as new evidence comes to light. Fundamentally, the idea is that between the death of Akhenaten and the succession of Tutankhamun, two kings appear to have ruled. This gap is varied and may have been as long as 4 years. So who are these extra rulers in the shadows? They are known as Nefertiti and Smenkhare. How do we know these rulers existed? Their names have been found enclosed in cartouches on various objects and inscriptions. However, we do not know who they were, how long they ruled, and if there was any co-regency between Akhenaten, Nefertiti, Nefertiti, or Smenkhare. As a result, there are numerous competing theories about the Amarna succession and who may have co-ruled with Akhenaten, and we will discuss 4 of them. Our first person of interest is Nefertiti. This individual is only attested from inscriptions and is believed to have been a female ruler who held the title "she who is beneficial for her husband." Unfortunately, we do not know who she may have been, and various theories include Nefertiti, Kia, and Princess Akhenaten. But why has this person been linked to Nefertiti? Nefertiti's name changed in year 5 to Nefertiti. However, one of her daughters held this name, so it is not sufficient proof to link them. Our second person of interest is Smenkhare. This figure seems to be more tangible, as we might have a pictorial depiction of him from Berlin. However, the identity and even the gender of Smenkhare are hotly contested by scholars. According to the traditional view, Smenkhare was a young man of uncertain patronage, perhaps the son of Amenhotep III, maybe the son-in-law of Akhenaten, and maybe even the brother of Tutankhamun. This view is based on the presumption that he married Akhenaten's eldest daughter, Akhenaten, and that his is the skeleton found in Tomb 55 in the Valley of the Kings. In some cases, scholars like Dodson argue that he only co-ruled with Akhenaten, while others see him as a sole ruler later in the Amarna period, as we'll explore further on in this presentation. So why do we think there was a co-regency? The idea stems from several objects such as this stela from Berlin, which clearly depicts a male and a female king. Though the cartouches are empty, scholars believe that, as the other king is female, it must be Nefertiti. There are also scenes of Nefertiti enthroned with Akhenaten, indicating their equal political status and perhaps their co-regency. In this example from the non-royal tomb of Mary Ra, number 4, the king and the queen are sitting parallel before tribute bearers, with the queen's arm wrapped around the king. They are also the same size, as shown by the use of layering. So how has such depictions impacted our understanding of the succession of the Amarna period? The text on the screen, being a quote from Karakuni, basically summarizes this perspective. To quote, "After year 12, a new co-king was pictured alongside Akhenaten, named Nefertiti, and now identified by most historians as Nefertiti herself. She had already been given the name Nefertiti after all. Now it seems she abandoned Nefertiti in favour of another cartouche with a second name, the throne name of a king. But the idea Nefertiti is Ankheperura Nefertiti is just a theory. Now we will explore some of the theories specifically. Firstly, as articulated before, the issue of the co-regency has occurred due to the numerous names in cartouches and the gap of time, being at least 4 years, between Akhenaten and Tutankhamun, thus apparently indicating that there was at least one or even two rulers who filled this gap. The first theory is that Akhenaten was succeeded by Nefertiti, who was ruling as Ankheperura Nefertiti, and this has been argued by John Harris, Julie Sampson, and Nicholas Reeves. It is known as the single individual theory, as it assumes Ankheperura Nefertiti and Smenkhara are the same person. A key piece of evidence for this ruler, recently republished and analysed by Nicholas Reeves, is a graffiti from the Theban tomb 139, which refers to Regnal Year 3 of a king of Upper and Lower Egypt named Ankheperura Nefertiti. Scholars have variously argued that this figure is a male and a female. Mark Gobold has demonstrated that this is a woman, as one of the epithets found accompanying the nomen is she who is beneficial for her husband. We therefore have evidence that a married female ruler who held the name Ankheperura Nefertiti succeeded Akhenaten upon his death. So why is it plausible that Nefertiti would rule after Akhenaten's death under a changed name? Firstly, Reeves posits that a cartouche name of Nefertiti is attested from Nefertiti's co-regency with Akhenaten, which may be evident from year 12 of Akhenaten's reign. This has been argued based on the scene from Hoya and Meri-Ra II's tomb, showing the ceremonies surrounding a great receipt of tribute. Nefertiti's active participation in these events are thus perhaps evidence of an early stage in Nefertiti's elevation to the co-regency, maybe even her coronation. Upon Akhenaten's death, Nefertiti continued ruling under her co-regency name of Ankheperura Nefertiti. However, after a period of time, in order to establish herself as the ultimate ruler, she changed her name to Smenkhara, who in turn was eventually succeeded by Tutankhamun. In the second theory, it aligns greatly with the first in that the ordering of the names is agreed upon. Ankheperura Nefertiti succeeded Akhenaten, who was in turn succeeded by Smenkhara. In this case, however, Ankheperura Nefertiti and Smenkhara are two different individuals, though the former was still likely someone who was a co-regent with Akhenaten and perhaps Nefertiti herself. Problematically, Nefertiti has been identified by scholars as Nefertiti, Kia, married Aten, and even another daughter of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, who is also named Nefertiti. This theory argues that Ankheperura Nefertiti was succeeded by Smenkhara and his great royal wife, married Aten, who reigned for no more than a year. Alternatively, Nefertiti's 3-year reign may have been concurrent with the last 3 years of Akhenaten's reign, though they were still succeeded by Smenkhara, who was a different individual. In this third theory, Akhenaten was succeeded by a pharaoh known to us as Smenkhara. According to this version, Smenkhara ruled for a short time before being succeeded by Ankheperura Nefertiti, and this theory is supported by such scholars such as Aidan Dodson in his 2014 work Amana Sunrise. So why the belief in a co-regency between Akhenaten and Smenkhara? According to reconstructed cartouches found on a globular vase from the tomb of Tutankhamun, Cairo JE 62172, the two names of Akhenaten and Smenkhara are found together. This, in turn, according to Dodson, to quote, is highly suggestive of a joint rule between Akhenaten and Smenkhara. That's found on page 31. Theory 4 is very similar to Theory 1, though it differs slightly in order. In this theory, Nefertiti was the co-regent known as Ankheperura Nefertiti. However, her name changed to Smenkhara upon her husband's death. This, like Theory 1, is thus also a single individual theory. So before we dive into some of the problems with these theories, it is important to acknowledge that evidence was published in 2012 that refers to Nefertiti as Akhenaten's chief wife in year 16 of his reign. This is an inscription from a limestone quarry at Akhenaten. What does it mean? It indicates that Akhenaten and Nefertiti was still on the throne as king and wife a year before what is considered to be the end of his reign. It also seems to indicate that Nefertiti was not going by the name of Nefer-Neferu-Aten as Akhenaten's co-regent in the last few years of his reign. The implications are that if Nefertiti did in fact become Akhenaten's co-regent, it cannot have happened before the last year of his reign. Furthermore, if Nefertiti did succeed Akhenaten to the throne as Nefer-Neferu-Aten, then it was the sole ruler. Where Smenkhara's reign fits into this is still a problem. As with so many aspects of Amarna history, each new discovery opens up more questions. So with all these conflicting theories and evidence, was there a co-regency during the Amarna period between Akhenaten and Nefertiti? The arguments for Nefertiti being the co-regent are based on a few key facts, a lot of which we have already covered in our lecture on the role of Nefertiti. The first key point is that the co-regent had the same name as Nefertiti, Nefer-Neferu-Aten. The second key point is that in the Amarna theology, Nefertiti held a prominent role, being one of the Aten triad, and thus she held significant power. Thirdly, Nefertiti participated in important ceremonies, such as handing out the gold of honor and smiting the enemy, scenes of which were traditionally linked to the king alone. Fourthly, Nefertiti is portrayed with agency, such as driving her own chariot and worshipping the Aten by herself. And finally, a scene from the tomb of Mary Ra shows both Akhenaten and Nefertiti enthroned and holding hands. What are some of the arguments against Nefertiti being a co-regent? Firstly, the name Nefer-Neferu-Aten itself is not necessarily indicative of Nefertiti. The name is also shared by two of Nefertiti's daughters, so there is no issue with it being shared by Nefertiti and Smenkhara. Secondly, Smenkhara was married to Mariette Aten, as revealed on a box from the tomb of Tutankhamun. So Smenkhara was probably male, and this seems to avoid the single individual theory. Thirdly, another piece of evidence pointing towards Smenkhara as a male ruler is found from the Valley of the King's tomb known as KV55. This body was examined by Shuho, and he argued that this was Tutankhamun's elder brother. This figure, who had gold leaf on him from a royal coffin, seems to indicate a male king between Akhenaten and Tutankhamun. However, the issue of the co-regency is perhaps the most contentious and fluid aspect of the Amarna period, and unfortunately we will likely never have an absolute answer, though of course that is the nature of history. As it may have become clear to you throughout this presentation, the evidence can be interpreted in multiple ways, and there is no correct answer at this point in time. To summarize, the co-regency theory relates to the gap of 3 to 4 years between the reign of Akhenaten and Tutankhamun. In some cases, scholars agree that Al-Kheperu-Ra, Nefer-Neferu-Aten, and Smenkhara were rulers. However, the theories vary from them as separate kings, as the same king, the order of their succession, and even who may have been a co-regent. Overall, Nefertiti has played a significant role in these theories and has been associated with Al-Kheperu-Ra, Nefer-Neferu-Aten, and Smenkhara, though the evidence seems to suggest they were different people. To recap our theories. 1. Nefertiti was a co-regent with Akhenaten, and also known as both Al-Kheperu-Ra, Nefer-Neferu-Aten, and Smenkhara. This is a single individual theory. 2. Akhenaten's co-regent, Al-Kheperu-Ra, Nefer-Neferu-Aten, succeeded him, and later another individual, Smenkhara, became king. 3. Smenkhara may have been Akhenaten's co-regent, and upon his death, succeeded him. Nefer-Neferu-Aten in turn followed him. 4. Nefertiti was known as Al-Kheperu-Ra, Nefer-Neferu-Aten during her co-regency, but upon Akhenaten's death, changed her name to Smenkhara, and again, this is another single individual theory. Overall, if you are interested in the co-regency and exploring it in more depth, I suggest exploring the references in the next slide, examining more of the primary sources available for these two rulers, and weighing up the evidence to reach your own conclusion.